Hey, this is Stacia, and I'm going to show you a tournament game that I played at the Parma Chess Club against Troy Grove, who got the white pieces, and we had a London system. So I analyzed this game and learned a lot. So I'll go ahead and share with you what I learned. So after d4, d5 is the move that I like. Knight f3, knight f6, and okay, bishop f4. So this is the London system. It's usually followed up by moves like e3 and c3 and knight bd2 and bishop d3, stuff like that. I like to take space when I can, so c5, challenging the d pawn immediately. In the London system, they generally will defend this pawn like as much as possible. That's why c3 is a move. Knight c6, attacking the d4 pawn again, but it's already defended. And c3. Okay, and yeah, here c3 is actually a bit of an inaccuracy because it does allow this move, queen b6. So the idea of queen b6 is that when this bishop leaves and comes outside the pawn chain, it's leaving behind a weak pawn on b2 that is unprotected. So we attack this pawn. The queen's also strengthening the center a bit. My opponent played b3. Yeah, I don't know about that move. But then again, I'm not sure what they should play. The reason being, like, queen c2 looks pretty natural, but I do believe that black can play bishop f5 here. Kind of a tricky move, right? Free bishop, come get it. Yeah, and then free rook. So they usually have to go like queen c1, and clearly black's doing well here because they're moving their queen around. We got our bishop outside the pawn chain. We'll go e6, bishop e7, castle, h6, etc. So after b3, I was like, well, okay. I mean, I don't think b3 is a great move or anything. I think b3 should happen when you have your dark square bishop on c1 and it can come to b2. When the bishop's outside the pawn chain, b3 is not a desirable move because it weakens the dark squares, and especially the c3 pawn around the queen side. So, you know, everybody wishes the bishop was here now. So yeah, b3. So I'm like, okay, well, I'll just kind of play normal because, you know, b3 weakened the queen side. All right, so bishop f5, bishop d3. And yeah, one thing I learned a lot from this game is that this exchange for me is a really good thing. London system players often get an attack on the king side, but one of the most major players of that attack is the light square bishop. So the fact that I had time to play bishop f5 and trade it with his light square bishop means that the attacking chances for white are reduced quite a bit. Okay, so he takes with the queen. Okay, e6. I just want to develop castles, and now takes. Now, I believe takes to be a bit of an inaccuracy based on my analysis. I'll check with the engine now. Yeah, it's not, I guess it is listed, but okay, here's the thing. My idea was I want to go bishop e7, but after they take, I have to move my bishop again. Now, if this happens, though, let's examine the pawn structure. Black has a pawn on d5. Okay, a very nice center pawn, a very nice structure. Structure looks great, right? Open C file. We'll use that C file, etc. Now let's examine white's structure. They played b3, weakening the c3 pawn. You know, they don't have a pawn on d4 anymore. So I shouldn't be afraid of d takes c5. So in hindsight, I think I should have played bishop e7, but instead I did take. And now I honestly think they should have taken with the c pawn. Like, for a couple of reasons. Number one, your bishop's already outside the chain. It's not like you're opening that up for the bishop. And number two, this knight is dying to land on the c3 square. When you take the other way, like this, well, now that knight, you know, cannot come to c3. He's going to have to go to the inferior square of d2. So, okay. Anyway, just sharing some stuff I learned. So, okay, takes. Bishop e7. Okay. I think black could have had better than this, but and so could white, right? So knight bd2 and a castle, that makes sense. Knight e5. Okay, so the knight comes in. I played rook ac8, that makes sense. And now knight to f3. Okay, I remember something else now. So rook ac8, it's a fine move. There's nothing wrong with it. Now I'm going to check with the engine now to see if it agrees with this analysis. It likes both, I guess. Likes rook fc8 especially. Ooh, you know what? Rook fc8. So I know the reason why rook fc8 is better. If you want to pause your video and determine why is playing the f rook over better than playing the a rook over. So if you want to answer that question, do so now. Yeah, if you want to know the idea is that at some point we're going to need to play queen d8. Because if this knight is ever going to leave and jump into e4, we need to avoid this fork. And queen d8's a natural move. The other way to play it is a5 followed by b5 and stuff like that. But when we put the f rook here, now queen d8 is a little nicer. It keeps the rooks connected. So just a little nuance there. Because when we play the other way, you know, and let's say white does something like this, queen d8, and now the rooks are disconnected again by the queen. The queen's back on the home square. So yeah, just one of those little things. Okay, so but I did play this move. Now another move I want to discuss here though is knight takes knight. Knight takes knight. This move is actually good, and I'm going to tell you why. If we take the knight, the reason I didn't in the game is that pawn takes e5. And I thought, okay, I'll go to d7 and attack it. They'll come to f3. And I thought, oh noes, I'm going to get attacked. Like, here comes the attack. Knight g5 and I don't know what, but queen g3, bishop h6. You know, and I'm going to get attacked because that e5 pawn is like this structure when there's a pawn on e5 usually is very conducive to an attack on the king side. But here's the other thing. There's a couple things about this position, this specific position, that kind of mean there is no attack. I have nothing to be worried about. Okay, two main things. Number one, the e5 pawn is not supported by a pawn on d4. That's number one. So white is going to need to worry about that, and they're going to have to play f4 if they're going to do an attack. Kind of hard to play f4 when black's pinning the pawn, and you've got a million pieces in front of it. Yeah, 2 equals 1 million in my world, apparently. Another thing is that queen g3, bishop h6 idea, that's not going to work. I mean, as soon as queen g3 comes, I can play rook e8 or rook c8 or something, and then bishop f8. My bishop will guard g7. There's no bishop h6. That's not going to do anything. It's just going to waste time for white. And number 3, and the most important, is what I mentioned earlier. Now, if there was a light square bishop, let's say there's a light square bishop on c2, and I had a light square bishop on c8, well, now you can imagine that the attack is real, right? Because already there would be a threat of checkmate. If I play g6, bishop h6, that bishop's going to stay there now. And knight g5. Everything looks much more scary if there was a bishop on c2. So without the light square bishop, that means that we can play like this. Okay, so that was a long explanation, but something I just learned, so I thought I would share. So taking, we do not have to fear this move. So let's look at the other capture now. If the bishop takes the knight, you know, okay, white has preserved their structure, but there's still a weak c3 pawn, number 1. Number 2, after knight d7, I mean, don't they have to kind of move their bishop again? I mean, they could play knight f3, but yeah, that's not enough for a real attack. That's not going to do anything. We can go bishop f6 even. So yeah, I think black's just better here, and I'm going to turn on the engine up. I'm going to guess that it's going to say like minus 1.5. Oh, I was wrong. It says minus 0.4. Okay, but black's at least fine. At least. Okay, so let's continue. So I think if I had this position again, I would play knight takes knight. But I played this move. And this is fine. I mean, I am attacking the weakness on the c file. Okay. But now I'm allowing this. Now knight takes knight isn't so good because now they get to improve their knight. Remember, it used to be on d2, and now, or I'm sorry, where was it? Yeah, d2. And now it's on e5, so we kind of helped white. So yeah, so I missed my chance to play knight takes knight. Okay, so now queen d8, and you can see the issue with the rooks. But it's okay. Yeah, because I wanted to go knight e4, but I don't want to blunder a fork, right? Because my queen was on b6. So I played queen d8, knight to g5. Okay, so I thought, you know, probably a minute or two here because I'm like, okay, knight g5, like, gotta be a little concerned. You know, white is threatening to take f7. I could take with the rook. They could take, king takes, and I gotta watch out for stuff there. But I didn't really see anything. So I was like, well, if, you know, whatever then. I'll just, you know, play something else. Now, if I go knight e4, I think he'll just take me like this, and then I lose a pawn. So let's not do that. But why not h6, right? Oops. Now, if you play h6, you better have calculated this, and you better have calculated this, like... So I did, and I didn't see any danger, so I played it. Turns out it was the right move. So the knight went back. I mean, if the knight comes to g5 and then just returns back to f3, then that does kind of mean that knight g5 is not a good move, just lost a turn. I guess you could argue that he provoked a weakness on h6, and maybe there's sacrifices at some point. That's possible. But h6 is often a useful move as well. So yeah, I think it was a gain of time for me. So knight e4. Okay, and well, now I'm feeling good. The whole reason I wanted knight e4 is because it added an additional attacker on the c3 pawn. White's not really, actually, I was going to say they're not ready to play c4, but are they? Could they play c4? I guess I would, yeah, they could have played this. Actually, this would have thrown me off a bit. So if that move, you know, I would probably, I don't know, I'm a little worried about c5 coming in. I might even play b6. I might. Because if b6 and they go in anyway, then we take it. Takes. Takes. Yeah, c4 is interesting. My opponent did not play that move. They could also take on c6. This is another way to play. I see the engine's recommending this one. Oh, and then go c4. That's another way to play. And they could also just go rook f to c1. Yeah, it looks like a similar idea that we looked at, but now white's doing it. And then if the queen wants to go to somewhere over here, like especially d1, then the rooks are still nicely placed over there. So, okay, but my opponent played queen e3, and well, I mean, I have sort of a discovery. I have a discovery on the c3 pawn now, right? Like I can just take on e5, which I did do. And then after takes, I can play rook takes c3. So this all happened, and I think now black is just better, you know. Up a pawn, more active. The attack on the king side is a little artificial. So things are looking good. So queen e1 was played, queen c8, f3. Yeah, I want to talk about this too because I lose this game. I do. I mean, I'm much better here, and yet I lose. And I lost to that strategy that I've seen so many times. That strategy is that my opponents will sometimes not play great moves. They don't care if their move is great. They just want their move to be not a blunder. And they just make moves that are, you know, whatever. But they do so quickly, and then I will get very low on time. And that is what happened. This game, I was searching for the best move. I found several of them, but then I was down on time. So by the time I had this position, I felt like I was in a rush to win, which is incorrect. The real way to play is to, you know, not try to win quickly, but just try to actually win. And one of the best ways to do that is to consolidate the position. So I think here I should coordinate, I should stay solid, and then, you know, invite trades if they happen to come because I'm a pawn up. Or we could even play against d4 perhaps. I did the opposite. I kept trying to find the best moves. I kept trying to win immediately, and I tried to play tricky. And playing tricky, though, just caused me to spend even more time. And, you know, it would have been nice if he didn't see some of my threats and then I just win. But my opponent, you know, calmly used his time, saw my threats, defended, and then I was just getting closer and closer to flagging on the clock. So anyway, so queen c8, I don't know if I would play this move again. The reason being, the rook is really awkward here. So notice that it's defended by the knight, and f3 could happen. So if f3 happens and I move my knight, I'm going to lose my rook, right? So I played queen c8 defending it, but I think a better move is just rook c8. Just come all the way back. Now, it would be great to go to c2, but that's in line with the bishop. So, you know, then there's knight takes. So we don't want to do that. We can't go here, we get taken. Can't go here, we get taken. So all the squares, all the great squares for the rook are kind of taken. Rook c2 is probably possible. Maybe I could go rook c2, actually. Thinking about it now. What did I not like about that? I'm not sure. I kind of like this, too. But, okay, I think rook c8 is just fine. Because there's no other good squares. And, you know, I want to I think I want to maintain defense of the d7 square because the knight could hop in there. Okay, but in the game, queen c8, f3, knight d6. Okay, so I left my rook there, and now look, now white's sort of getting an initiative, causing me to react to their threats now. Okay, but I did calculate this, and I played rook c2. But why am I calculating? Why am I doing that? Like, just consolidate, be safe, and go from there, and do so that I don't use too much time. I don't know. This is rapid chess, so that I think that is the right approach. Okay, so he offered to trade, so I'm like, hey, let's trade. Trades are good for me. And queen c2. Yeah, I don't know about queen c2. It allows this rook f2 move, gaining a tempo on my queen and defending the pawn. I have to move my queen again. So what was the point of that? All right, and then bishop e2, rook c8, knight d3, bishop f6. Knight comes back to e5. Yeah, see, my opponent's like, yeah, whatever. I'm just going to play fast moves that don't lose immediately and play against you on the clock. And I was like, no talking. No, he didn't say anything. Knight f5. Okay, and now I had like all kinds of like crazy ideas. Like I was thinking about bishop h4, and I'm thinking about, oops. And I was thinking about, you know, if I can provoke g3, then I can target this. And if that moves up, this whole back rank is getting weaker and whatever. But okay, he played g3, I guess stopping bishop h4, but that's a pretty weakening move. Queen b6. Yeah, I don't like queen b6 in hindsight. Yes, I want my queen there. That makes sense, but you know, I'm allowing counterplay. Like, why am I doing this, right? Now, I calculated queen d8 takes, and I thought, ooh, I traded, yay. But I mean, why am I calculating? Why am I like just I need to learn to play like a little more practically in a winning position and a little more solid, and I feel like I did not do that this game. So this happened. Oh, and guess what? I don't even have any more moves to show you because I was getting very low on time here. And I wrote in my notation though, I began getting frustrated because he had 19 minutes left and I had under a minute. I ended up losing on time, sadly. I should have just played quick moves with a plan to trade pieces instead. I was trying to set up forks and stuff, which he easily saw since he has had so much time. Yeah, and I lost this game. You know, my opponent defended well the winning position. He played quick, fast moves that maybe weren't the best, but they were good enough. And because he did get outplayed in a way, you know, I played better moves, won a pawn, got a very nice position, but I did fail to do so in the time allowed for rapid chess. So anyway, kind of a sad loss for me, but I continue to learn, and I do feel that my chess is coming together more and more these days. So hopefully I'll have really good news to share at some point here. Well, for example, I did hit cross 1600 on Blitz Chess on chess.com for the first time just the other day. I've never been that high ever. So, I mean, little things like that are a sign that I am improving, and well, I'll continue to be patient. So, thank you for watching the video, and I'll see you next time. Okay, bye.